What Tiny Epic game would you like me to review next? Let me know in the comments of this video right now, and go ahead and subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. What if you could claim the Iron Throne from the palm of your hand? A compact, strategic power struggle across Westeros, where alliances, betrayal, and battle collide in miniatures and dice without sacrificing any depth. This is Tiny Epic Game of Thrones. Tiny Epic Game of Thrones is a medium-weight, 90-minute strategic area control and dice drafting game for 1 to 4 players from Galen Games, featuring recruitment, plotting, battles, and political maneuvering. Playing Tiny Epic Game of Thrones feels like mastering survival in Westeros. Tense negotiation, sudden betrayals, and the thrill of sneaking one advantage ahead as victory hangs in the balance. My name's Caravan Dan, I run Gaming Caravan, and this is Tiny Epic Game of Thrones Before You Buy. Now, if you don't know, I don't know much about Game of Thrones. I've watched like 6 seasons of the show years ago. I did not follow like almost any of it. It's like watching Skyrim, the TV show. But I am a huge IP guy, and I work with Gamelin on a lot of their games and for like reviewing, getting the games out there for marketing with Gaming Caravan and our free events in Florida. And they sent me this game for Caravan Convoy, which is our annual board gaming convention for like new and upcoming games. And this was such a highlight. I wish more people get the chance to play this game. Tiny Game of Thrones, as stated, is a dice drafting game where you're going to roll these 5 dice, and then depending on what gets rolled, you're going to draft from reverse player order. So starting in the back and then going to the front. That means the dice you draft are the actions you can take, much like Tiny Epic's other games, where the dice are completely unique faces. There's no numbers, and the face of the die is the action you can take. However, whenever you draft the die, you will place on a later turn. When you place it on the main shared board, you can actually take optional additional actions. And this might seem simple because you only take 2 actions on your turn, but you're playing on every single person's turn, because whatever action or whatever dice is placed on the main board, everyone will be able to do that action. So even though it's only 6 rounds and then the game's over, 6 or 7 rounds and the game's over, you are actually doing about 5 to 8 actions per round. So you're actually doing quite a ton of actions. You might skip a lot of these actions, which is perfectly fine, because you might not have enough cards in your hand. You might not be able to refresh. You might not want to play some cards in your hand. Or you might not be able to buy some things, but you have the option to make about like 50 choices of actions in this game, which is why the game is actually, even though I say it's medium because it's not too hard to learn, it would be medium heavy in terms of like mastering, if not closer on like the 3.8, 3.9 section of it, even though it's just a Tiny Epic game. Now, Tiny Epic, if you don't know, is known for Tiny Epic Galaxies. They've done a ton of Tiny Epic games. This one I thought would be more like an IP grab, personally, because I don't know many Game of Thrones things that are good in terms of the games, because I haven't played Game of Thrones, a board game. But all the other ones I've seen are kind of just like not the best games. And I like Tiny Epic. I love Gamelin. And this was not a disappointment whatsoever. So in Tiny Epic Game of Thrones, let's talk about some things of how you play it. As I said, you roll dice. You're going to draft the dice for actions. Depending on the player count, you will draft different amounts of die. Starting with whoever is going last and then going to the front. And then starting with the starting player, you're going to use the dice on the main board to do actions. Depending where you place it, you will have the option to do an additional action on your turn. And then everyone will do the dice facing public action. This is a area control war tactics strategic game, because you will have minions on the board with you. You each have a hero as well that lets you do different abilities. This is kind of what the board will look like. I just had some extra minis set up for funsies, but you can truly have a ton of minis on the board. So I will start with 2, someone else will start with 2 in their hometown, which I gotta find that and put that in the right place. There you go, bada bing bada boom. And you're going to walk across the land and just start conquering lands. Wherever you have a minion on, you'll gain the benefits of that whenever relevant. Usually it's income to get extra coins. However, the more places you have captured, the less money you can actually hold, because each city you claim will give you some extra benefits, but it limits the amount of money you have on the board. So if I claim, let's say, another city, I'll add the city to my board. Instead of having a maximum of 8 coins, I can only have a maximum of 7 coins. Additionally, you can also utilize other people's armies, which is pretty cool. Not any player in the game, but there's always at least one NPC army on the side that whenever you interact with them, you're going to take some of their pieces and add it to your ally pool. If you have the most amount of allies, and you'll have at least 2 allies of one clan, you're going to take their token to symbolize that is the alliance you have with them. And now you can actually utilize their pieces on the board as if they were your own. That also means that it's going to help you with raids. You can also grab their warrior clan if they have. You can grab their miniature if they have a miniature and use their abilities for it as well. These cards will allow you to do a ton of different things. There's strength. You can use it for fling fights. You can use it for engaging fights. You can use it for surrendering, so you actually don't lose anything. You can use it for bolstering your defenses. You can bluff with it because there's also a lot of variability with the effects of the cards, even outside of the war. And you're going to use these cards whenever relevant, which usually is in the plot action, and then it resolves going clockwise, I believe. There's some event cards as well that trigger based on going in clockwise order, but it is a fun game. It's a good game. Points are calculated on this board right here, and you get points from winning fights, owning castles, getting the Iron Throne and holding it there, which it takes a while to get to the Iron Throne because you need at least 2 cities, I believe, before you even get the chance to get there. But you do have extra defense whenever you already own the Iron Throne. So overall, this game's dope. You can maneuver across the seas. You can maneuver through the actual lands. I mean, I know I'm supposed to be objective during the factual part of this, but this is a fun time. If you want a full how to play game, that's not this video. I'm just telling you guys the vibes, the gist of this game, and you know what you should know before you buy this game. So let's go into the other facts part of the game. We're going to similar games. Now, similar games to Tiny Epic Game of Thrones, I would actually say Blood Rage is one of them. I don't know any other Tiny Epic game that works like this, so I can't even say other Tiny Epics are similar to this, but Blood Rage is the closest because in Blood Rage, instead of drafting dice for your actions, you'll be starting off each round by drafting cards, and then you'll be utilizing those cards and your points, which are your action points, which are the Blood Rage in the game, to do certain actions and pay for the cards to bolster your army. So that's more like a Tableau engine builder-esque drafting game. This is definitely a dice drafting game, but there's no dice involved with like the attacks. It's all based on the cards you have and the strength that you have on the board. So even though they could play a card to like go from 1 to 5 in strength to be out your 3 or 4, you also have the ability to know that going forward and or bluff with them, like I'm going to play a card down. And you both flip it over. And it's just an interesting give and take. I really do like this. It was fun in 2 players, but it's one of those games where like I think having at least 3 makes it good because the 3 players, you get rid of some of the 2-player slots, and then you don't just have 2 dice per player. There's less options involved per player. I think 4-player was the best way to play this game personally, but to each their own. And yeah, honestly, I've heard Game of Thrones, the board game, is a similar vein of game to this. It's just more complex and obviously has a bigger table presence, is a more fleshed out actual board game, but Tiny Epic did a great job doing a very deep game that's heavy and satisfies like core gamers while maintaining their small box sizes and their deluxe tokens, to be fully honest. Main selling points of this game is the IP 100%, the fact that it is a small box, 100% smaller than a sandwich, as some would say, and the fact that you do interact with a third faction that always exists in every game that you can bribe and utilize on your side of the field. I think that's a good selling point. And if you have the deluxe version, which comes with Tyrion Lannister, you actually have a solo mode for that as well if you choose to get it. But that again is not purchased retail. It was only a Kickstarter exclusive, I believe. So good luck finding that now. And that's what we have, by the way, big boy. Now, going into the my opinion section of this, my opinions, let's start off with how it felt. It feels like a tactical war game. This feels like if you like Risk, if you like games like Risk, this gets rid of any luck and adds it to just straight strategy. And of course, there is a small metric of luck involved depending on the cards that you get, but I would say the cards are so well versed and pretty balanced that there's no card that's like objectively like this one's so strong versus that one card. They're all in the same line. They all do different things fully, and sometimes you get what you want, and sometimes you just get things that you're able to use properly. So it's a game where you definitely have to think out all your actions, which is why there's a little bit of AP in this game, because there's so many cards you have in your hand, so many things you could be able to do, so many things you might want to do. Yeah, this game does feel, it's not tight, I'll say that much. It's not like small actions, as I said. There are like potentially up to 50 actions. You just have to choose when to do actions, when you can afford actions, when you want to play cards, when you want to refresh. It's very in the gameplay in those regards, but it has a lot of open-ended feels. There's no single direct strategy to win the game other than the fact that you need obviously points. And the way you get points is pretty straightforward, but you can go based on direct combat and just putting as many people on the board as possible to own land, to get more gold, to just have a bigger army presence. There's utilizing the shared, what's called? This guy, the NPC army, to utilize, so you don't have to use your own stuff. You can probably buy their mini and use them more than your own stuff. There's a way of making like actual in-person allegiances, like I won't attack you, won't attack me, let's go after the guy who owns the Iron Throne, which happened to me a few times. But honestly, it's a great game. I like it. It feels fitting for the Game of Thrones world, because once you're on the Iron Throne, everyone just starts coming for you, and they just like don't even fight each other, and maybe they do fight each other just to have the ability to fight you. So you really do feel cool once you get that Iron Throne. This game feels really like Game of Thrones. I would say that undoubtedly. I really like the dice drafting. I didn't think I would, but sometimes like I like the fact that you're technically limited on the cards you can play and the actions you can take in a turn, rather than doing any of the 5 actions. I like the fact that I have to draft a die to be able to utilize a certain action, and if I want to do more than that, hope someone else uses it. But typically know that if someone else, if I don't even roll the face I need, I can't do the action for the most part, which is good to know. So now I have to like work around that. I do like the dice drafting limitation, I would say. I think that's pretty unique. That works in other Tiny Epic games, and I'm glad they brought it to here, to keep that dice implementation with like the nice looking dice. What I didn't like with this game, I'm not gonna lie. So if you learn this from the Dized app, the Dized app is great. It's a great way to, if you don't want to use rulebooks, to learn how to play the game. The rulebook is pretty complicated, I would say. Like, it's not fleshed out enough potentially, and then the Dized app is too fleshed out. Like, it took us about 3 hours with 2 people to play this game, which is insane. But I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't be able to. I tried to understand without the Dized app, and I was pretty confused. Using Dized app cleared up everything at the sake of taking so much longer, because it's really like elaborate on every detail, every action, every point. What are you doing? How are you doing this? What's the goal? What round are you on? Which is nice. It really is nice. But yeah, this game is hard to explain. It took me like 40 minutes to teach this game. After playing it a few times, because there's just so many things you could do, you have to do. People are going to be a little bit confused based on like, oh, well, what if I don't have this die? Do I get that first or second, or maybe what happens round four again? So it's a little bit of wonkiness to it, but it is very organic. Once you start playing the game, you can pretty much run it after you turn off the Dized app in like I'd say round 4 is when you can turn off the Dized app, but that's halfway through the game. And it really does take a little bit, and there are some edge cases that you come across. Would I ever play this game? 100%. If I had 3 hours and 4 people, this is like one of the games I would want to pull out more than anything else. It's hard to think about sometimes. I want a neoprene mat for this personally, because the 6 cards is nice to make the board, but I would like an actual fletch to get the board without the white border that allows me to see the spacing. However, you do need that category a bit because of the sail action. You move through the white waters, which is the cards, and then the movement action, the march action, is moving through the actual space in the board. So I understand why they did it like this. Personally, I would love to print out an actual like long thing, maybe put down a nice neoprene mat, but that's to each their own. I don't think that would ever actually happen, because I don't think there is a neoprene option for this at all, sadly enough. But yeah, I would love to play this again very soon, ASAP. I need 4 people in 3 hours on this. Would I buy this game? Honestly, this is one of the games I definitely would add to my private collection, and once this game is no longer in our library, I will be adding it to my private collection. A little bit because of the fact I try to collect all the Tiny Epic games however possible, but mostly because of the fact that this is a truly great game. You can get rid of Tiny Epic on the box and just keep it how it is. I would say that this is still a great game for whoever makes it. Be proud of this game, truly. The components are the screen printed double-sided minis, or meeples, or whatever you want to call these, are fantastic. The 3D printed minis really do stand out. The 3D minis really make it stand out, because now you don't have to worry like, oh, which one of these wooden ones is my leader? You just know the one that actually looks like your leader is your leader. The rest of them are soldiers. What's my city? The cities are the ones that look obviously like cities. And cards are cards. Components are very unique and distinct. And for each house, we have our own distinctive colored and shaped and symboled meeples. So I'm telling you, like, this is great. For the production quality is fantastic. The price isn't that bad. To be honest, like for this, $40 or like 45, whatever it was, it's not that bad. Under 50 is pretty good, for sure. And you don't really need the expansion. Tyrene Lannister adds a couple cards, and he adds his mini, and he adds a solo mode. So if you don't need a solo mode, I wouldn't even say you need to touch this. Because there's also a cooperative version of this game, which I don't know and I don't have, which isn't a big deal because I don't really play co-op games anyways. But I would like to check it out. I heard people really like the cooperative mode for Tiny Epic Game of Thrones. Dude, I think this is a great purchase for like under 50 for sure. Now, Tiny Epic Game of Thrones is actually currently number 23 out of 92 on my list of like games I'm ranking. If you don't know, I'm ranking every single game I've ever played, putting that on a list just because I prefer to do that over like, is it a 1 to 10? I just prefer saying like what I like it compared to. And I'm definitely doing it in their own categories after this, but right now, Tiny Epic Game of Thrones overall is number 23 out of 92, which is pretty high for me. It almost cracked the top 20, but I just love the IPs I know more than the IPs I don't. Maybe if this was its own IP I could get all invested on, I'd be about that. But Game of Thrones, you know, there's a lot of content in that show that I don't support, so I have to look past that for this. But if you like Game of Thrones, I guarantee this could be like a top 20 for you. If you like skirmish games, war games, board games in general, you can understand heavier games, this is going to be like a pretty highly ranking game for you. Tiny Epic Game of Thrones is number 23, right underneath Carcassonne. That's classic for me. And right above Battle of Gods, which if you don't know is like a King of Tokyo unmatched collab. But yeah, that's everything for today. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about Tiny Epic Game of Thrones and all of the Tiny Epic games in general. Is there a Tiny Epic game you want me to review next? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe if you want to see more of this. Like the video if you like the video. And I hope to see you soon. Peace out. Have a great day. God bless. And I hope to see you at table soon.